What happens when a widow fighting to keep her family alive crosses paths with a desperate Apache father? In a single night, both their lives are thrown into a choice that could change everything. Thank you so much for watching and for all your comments. Let me know at the end if you liked the story and where you're watching from and why you're following this. Arizona Territory, 1876. The merciless summer sun beat down on the small homestead nestled in the foothills of the Superstition Mountains. Sarah Thompson wiped the sweat from her brow as she hung laundry to dry, her movements practiced but heavy with grief. It had been 6 months since influenza took her husband James, leaving her alone with their 10-year-old son Thomas. "Ma, look!" Thomas called out, proudly holding up a small rabbit he'd caught in one of his crude traps. His sandy hair fell across his forehead, a mirror image of his father's. Sarah forced a smile. "Well done, Tommy. That'll make a fine stew for tonight." The boy's face fell slightly. "Pa would have shown me how to skin it proper." Sarah's heart clenched at the mention of James. She'd tried her best to fill both roles, but some lessons a boy needed to learn from a man. "I'll help you with it, just as your father showed me." As they prepared the rabbit together, Thomas asked, "Why don't we ever see any Indians, Ma? Billy Johnson says they're all around these parts." "The Apache keep to themselves mostly," Sarah explained. "And that's for the best. Times are changing, Tommy. The railroad's coming, more settlers too." Later that evening, as Thomas slept, Sarah sat on the porch, rifle across her lap. A nightly ritual since James passed. The distant howl of coyotes carried on the cool night air. She knew the ranch was too much for her to maintain alone, but she couldn't bear the thought of selling James's dream and moving to town. The crack of a twig in the darkness jolted her from her thoughts. Sarah raised her rifle, heart pounding. "I mean no harm," came a deep voice from the shadows. A tall figure emerged slowly into the moonlight, hands raised. Sarah kept her rifle aimed. "State your business." The man stepped closer. His copper skin and long black hair marked him as Apache, but he wore a mix of traditional garments and white man's clothes. A weathered army blanket was wrapped around his broad shoulders. "My name is Nakohe," he said in remarkably good English. "It means warrior in my tongue. I have twin daughters. Their mother died 3 days ago from fever." Sarah kept her rifle steady. "I'm sorry for your loss, but what does that have to do with me?" The man's stoic face revealed a flash of desperation. "The babies need milk. They will not survive on what I can feed them. I heard there was a woman here who might help." "Who told you that?" Sarah demanded. "The trader Williams. He said you are a kind woman who recently lost her husband." Sarah lowered her rifle slightly, remembering the kindly shopkeeper in town who had been helping her sell excess eggs and vegetables. Nakohe continued, "I have medicine ways, hunting skills. Your boy needs to learn how to hunt. My baby girls need to be breastfed. We can help each other." Sarah's mind raced. She had no milk to offer. Her son was 10 years old. "I can't nurse your babies. My milk dried up years ago." "Then goat's milk," Nakohe replied. "I have nothing to feed them. Their mother's sister tried, but she has gone with the others to the reservation. I will not go there." Sarah studied the man's face in the moonlight. His eyes held grief she recognized all too well, but pride too. She thought of the 2 motherless infants, surely starving somewhere nearby. "Where are they now?" "Your daughters?" "Safe. Hidden." His eyes never left hers. "I would not bring them until I knew it was safe." Sarah made her decision. "Bring them here. I have goat's milk. We'll figure something out for tonight, but I make no promises beyond that." Relief washed over Nakohe's face. He disappeared into the darkness and returned moments later carrying a small bundle wrapped in deerskin. As he stepped onto the porch, Sarah could hear the weak cries of hungry infants. She led him inside, lighting a lamp. "Let me see them." Nakohe carefully unwrapped the bundle, revealing 2 tiny infants with copper skin and tufts of black hair. They couldn't have been more than a few weeks old, and their cries were alarmingly feeble. "They need feeding right away," Sarah said, moving quickly to the kitchen. She warmed goat's milk over the stove and prepared 2 small cloth feeders. "What are their names?" "Ayana and Kiona," Nakohe replied, watching her every move. "It means eternal blossom and brown hills." As Sarah showed him how to hold the cloth feeder for the babies, their tiny hands reached up, desperately seeking nourishment. Nakohe's stoic expression softened as he watched his daughters drink. "You saved their lives this night," he said quietly. Sarah met his gaze. "For tonight, yes, but they need more than I can give. The reservation—" "No," he interrupted firmly. "The reservation is death. Slow death of spirit, then body. I will not take my daughters there." "Then what do you propose?" Sarah asked. "I will build shelter near your home, hunt for you, teach your boy the ways of tracking, hunting, protect your homestead." His eyes held hers steadily. "In return, you help feed my daughters until they can take solid food." Sarah knew she should refuse. Send him to the Indian agent in town. Having an Apache living near her property would cause talk, perhaps trouble, but looking at the hungry infants, she couldn't turn them away. "1 week," she said finally. "Stay 1 week. We'll see after that." As the night deepened, Sarah showed Nakohe where he and his daughters could sleep in the barn. She returned to the house wondering what she had just agreed to, and how she would explain it to Thomas in the morning. Dawn broke over the mountains, painting the sky in shades of pink and gold. Sarah had barely slept, her mind racing with worries about the arrangement she'd made. She rose early to check on her unexpected guests, only to find Nakohe already outside, constructing a small lean-to shelter at the edge of her property, his daughters sleeping peacefully in a makeshift cradle nearby. "You work fast," Sarah remarked, approaching cautiously. Nakohe nodded. "The sun brings heat. Babies need shade." His movements were efficient as he wove branches together. "Your boy still sleeps?" "Yes. I'm not sure how to explain you to him. Truth is best, always." Nakohe's dark eyes met hers. "Children understand more than we think." Sarah nodded, then gestured toward a basket she carried. "I brought breakfast, and more milk for the babies." As if on cue, one of the twins began to cry. Nakohe moved to the cradle with surprising gentleness, lifting the fussing infant. "This is Ayana. She always wakes first." A rare smile softened his weathered face as he cradled his daughter. Sarah showed him how to warm the milk and feed the babies properly. "How did you learn to speak English so well?" she asked as they worked. "I was taken to mission school as boy. Ran away after 2 winters. His face hardened. "Learned enough to understand white man's ways. Important for survival now." A shout from the direction of the house interrupted them. Thomas stood at the back door, eyes wide with alarm. "Ma, there's an Indian," he called, pointing toward Nakohe. Sarah straightened. "It's all right, Tommy. Come meet our guests." Thomas approached warily, staying close to his mother's side. Nakohe remained still, holding Ayana, while Kiona began to stir in the cradle. "This is Nakohe," Sarah explained. "He and his daughters will be staying nearby for a little while." Thomas stared openly at the tall Apache. "Are you a real warrior?" Nakohe nodded solemnly. "I was. Now I am father to these little ones." "Where's their ma?" Thomas asked. "She walks with the spirits now," Nakohe replied quietly. Thomas's face softened with understanding. "Like my pa." He stepped closer, peering at the baby in Nakohe's arms. "They're awful small." "Would you like to help feed this one?" Sarah asked, nodding toward Kiona, who was now fully awake and beginning to cry. To her surprise, Thomas nodded eagerly. Under her guidance, he carefully held the cloth feeder as the tiny girl drank hungrily. "She's strong," Thomas observed with a smile, grabbing my finger and everything. The tension eased as they shared this quiet moment. After the babies were fed, Nakohe turned to Thomas. "Your mother says you want to learn hunting." Thomas's eyes lit up. "Yes, sir. Pa was teaching me, but—" His voice trailed off. "We begin today. Simple lessons first." Nakohe looked to Sarah for permission. She hesitated, then nodded. "Stay within shouting distance of the house." As the days passed, a rhythm developed. Each morning, Nakohe would take Thomas for tracking and hunting lessons, teaching him to move silently through the brush, to read animal signs, to set proper traps. Sarah cared for the twins while they were gone, finding unexpected joy in the presence of the infants. By evening, they would share a meal, with Nakohe contributing fresh game to their table. On the 5th day, Sarah was hanging laundry when she spotted riders approaching. 3 men from town, led by Sheriff Mills. "Stay inside," she told Thomas, who was playing near the twins. "Take the babies to the back room and stay quiet." She met the men at the edge of her property, rifle in hand. "Afternoon, gentlemen. What brings you out this way?" Sheriff Mills removed his hat. "Mrs. Thompson, word's reached town you've got yourself an Indian problem." "No problem here, Sheriff," Sarah replied evenly. "Williams at the trading post says you've been buying extra milk and baby things." The sheriff's eyes narrowed. "Said an Apache brave's been seen coming and going from your property." One of the other men, Frank Doyle, spat on the ground. "Ain't proper, a white woman alone with a savage." Sarah's grip tightened on her rifle. "My arrangements are my business, Mr. Doyle. The Apache has been helping with hunting and repairs. Nothing improper about it." Sheriff Mills sighed. "Sarah, be reasonable. There's a reservation for these people. If he's got young'uns like we heard, they belong there too. It's for their own good." "And what about my good?" Sarah countered. "Since James died, this place has been falling apart. Now the game's being hunted, repairs made. My son's learning skills his father would have taught him." The third man, whom Sarah recognized as a rancher named Peterson, spoke up. "What happens when more come? You think they'll all be friendly? One Indian leads to 10, then 20. He's alone except for his babies," Sarah insisted. "Their mother died. They needed help." Sheriff Mills shook his head. "I'm sorry, Sarah, but I've got orders. All Indians not on reservation land are to be brought in. The Army's cracking down after them Apache raids last spring." "Nakkohe had nothing to do with those raids," Sarah argued, though she had no way of knowing if that was true. "Where is he now?" the sheriff demanded. As if summoned by the question, Nakkohe emerged from the tree line, Thomas at his side. They carried a string of rabbits. Seeing the mounted men, Nakkohe stopped, placing a protective hand on Thomas's shoulder. "Go to your mother, boy," Sheriff Mills called. Thomas looked uncertainly between Nakkohe and the men. "It's all right, Tommy," Sarah said. "Come here." Thomas reluctantly joined his mother as the sheriff dismounted, hand resting on his pistol. "You're coming with us, Indian. Orders are all Apache are to be on the reservation." Nakkohe stood straight, his face impassive. "My daughters are inside. They are too small for journey. We'll see they get proper care," the sheriff replied, though his tone lacked conviction. Sarah stepped forward. "Sheriff, please, give us until the end of summer. The babies are too fragile to move now. I'll take responsibility." "Can't do it, Sarah. Law's the law." "Then I'll go to the territorial governor," Sarah declared. "I'll write to the newspapers in California. Ask them how it looks to separate infant girls from their father." The sheriff's face darkened. "Don't make this difficult." "It's already difficult," Sarah shot back. "You're trying to take babies from their only parent. Would you do the same if they were white?" This gave the men pause. Peterson shifted uncomfortably in his saddle. 3 weeks, Sarah pressed. "Give us 3 weeks. By then the babies will be stronger, and we can make proper arrangements." Sheriff Mills considered, then reluctantly nodded. 3 weeks. Then he goes to the reservation or there'll be trouble. He mounted his horse. "I'll be back, Mrs. Thompson. Don't make me bring more men next time." As the riders departed, Sarah felt her knees weaken with relief. Thomas ran inside to check on the twins, while Nakkohe approached her slowly. "You risk much," he said quietly. "Why?" Sarah met his gaze. "Because it's right, and because you've kept your word." That night, after Thomas was asleep, Sarah found Nakkohe sitting outside his shelter, watching the stars. "They'll come back," she said, joining him. "Yes." His voice was resigned. "What will you do?" Nakkohe was silent for a long moment. "There are places in the mountains, places white men do not go, but the journey would be hard on the little ones." Sarah took a deep breath. What if there was another way? The following morning broke with a sense of urgency. Sarah's proposition had kept her awake most of the night, and judging by Nakkohe's expression as he approached the house at dawn, he'd had little rest as well. "You have thought more about your words last night?" he asked, helping her collect eggs from the henhouse. Sarah nodded, glancing toward the house to ensure Thomas was still inside. "The sheriff gave us 3 weeks, but they could return sooner. We need a plan that protects your daughters and gives you options beyond the reservation. What do you propose?" Nakkohe's dark eyes studied her face intently. Sarah took a deep breath. "Marriage." Nakkohe's expression remained unchanged, but she noted the slight stiffening of his shoulders. "Hear me out," she continued quickly. "It would be a marriage on paper only. If you're my husband, legally they can't force you onto the reservation. Your daughters would be under my protection too. The law protects such a union? Nakohe asked, skepticism evident in his voice. Not everywhere, Sarah admitted. But the territorial judge in Prescott is a fair man. James spoke highly of him. If we can get there, explain our situation. She trailed off, uncertain. Nakohe was silent for a long moment. This would bring you much trouble. The people in town already talk. People always talk, Sarah replied with a hint of bitterness. They talked when I insisted on keeping this ranch after James died. Said a woman couldn't manage it alone. She straightened her shoulders. I care more about doing what's right than what's easy. And your boy, have you spoken to him? Sarah shook her head. Not yet. I wanted to discuss it with you first. Just then, Thomas burst from the house, excitement on his face. Nakohe, are we still going fishing today? You promised to show me how to catch them with my hands. Nakohe's stern features softened. Yes, we will go after breakfast. As Thomas chatted eagerly about fishing techniques, Sarah watched the interaction with mixed emotions. In just a week, the Apache man had become a mentor to her son, filling a void James's death had left. Thomas was happier than she'd seen him in months. After breakfast, as Nakohe and Thomas prepared to leave for the creek, Sarah called her son aside. Tommy, I need to discuss something important with you, she began, sitting him down on the porch steps. Is it about the sheriff? Are they coming back to take Nakohe away? Worry clouded his young face. Sarah was surprised by his perceptiveness. They might try. That's what I want to talk about. I'm considering a way to make sure Nakohe and the twins can stay with us legally. How? Sarah chose her words carefully. I'm thinking about marrying Nakohe. Not like it was with your father and me, she added quickly, seeing confusion in Thomas's eyes. It would be more like a partnership to protect him and the babies from being sent to the reservation. Thomas was quiet for a moment, processing. Would he be my pa then? No one could ever replace your father, Sarah assured him. Nakohe would be a guardian, someone to help us, as we help him. To her surprise, Thomas nodded thoughtfully. I think Pa would understand. He always said we should stand up for what's right even when it's hard. Tears pricked at Sarah's eyes. Yes, he did say that. And the babies need someone to take care of them, Thomas continued. Like you took care of me when I was little. Sarah hugged her son tightly. You're a good boy, Tommy. Your father would be proud of the young man you're becoming. Later, as Sarah watched Nakohe patiently teaching Thomas how to stand still in the creek and wait for fish, she felt a strange sense of peace. This unconventional arrangement might just work. That evening, as the twins slept in their cradle inside the house, Sarah had insisted they move from the barn after the sheriff's visit. She and Nakohe sat on the porch, discussing details. The journey to Prescott will take 3 days, Sarah explained. We'll need to prepare carefully. The town will know of our plan before we leave, Nakohe observed. Sarah nodded grimly. Williams at the trading post is a friend. I'll speak to him tomorrow. Ask him to keep quiet until we're gone. We'll need supplies anyway. When do we leave? 2 days from now, early morning, we'll take the wagon. Nakohe was silent for a moment. If the judge refuses? Sarah hadn't allowed herself to consider failure. Then, we'll think of something else. Perhaps head to California. The following day, Sarah made the trip into town alone. The trading post was nearly empty when she arrived, much to her relief. Mrs. Thompson, Williams greeted her warmly. What brings you in today? Sarah got straight to the point. I need supplies for a journey to Prescott, Edward, and I need your discretion. Williams raised his eyebrows but began gathering items as she listed them. This have anything to do with your Apache visitor? Town's been buzzing about it since the sheriff's return yesterday. It does, Sarah admitted. I'm going to marry him. Williams nearly dropped the sack of flour he was holding. You can't be serious, Sarah. Deadly serious. It's the only way to protect him and his children from the reservation. The shopkeeper shook his head in disbelief. Have you thought this through? You'll be an outcast, both of you. I've considered the consequences, Sarah replied firmly. Will you help us or not? Williams studied her face for a long moment. James was a good man and a good friend. He'd want me to look after you. He sighed heavily. I'll keep quiet until tomorrow evening. That's the best I can do. Thank you, Edward. Sarah squeezed his hand gratefully. As she left the store, she felt eyes following her from windows and doorways. News traveled fast in small towns. She hurried the wagon back to the homestead, an uneasy feeling settling in her stomach. That night, as they finalized preparations for their journey, a distant sound caught Nakohe's attention. He stiffened, moving to the door. "What is it?" Sarah asked, alarmed by his expression. "Riders. Many." His voice was tense. "Coming fast." Sarah's heart sank. "They couldn't know yet. Williams promised." "Not all men keep promises," Nakohe replied grimly. Thomas appeared in the doorway, rubbing sleep from his eyes. "Ma, what's happening?" "Get dressed quickly," Sarah instructed, her mind racing. "We need to leave now." As Thomas scrambled to obey, Sarah turned to Nakohe. "There's a back trail through the wash. It's rough but passable with the wagon, if we can reach it before they arrive." Nakohe nodded, already gathering the twins and wrapping them securely. "I will drive. You take rifle." Working with desperate efficiency, they loaded the wagon with their prepared supplies. Sarah added a small box containing James's pocket watch and her wedding ring, keepsakes she couldn't bear to leave behind. The sound of hoofbeats grew louder as they hitched the horses. Sarah helped Thomas into the wagon bed, where he huddled beside the twins' makeshift cradle. "Hold on tight," she told him, placing the rifle across her lap as she climbed onto the seat beside Nakohe. They set off down the back trail, the wagon jostling roughly over the uneven ground. Behind them, Sarah could see torchlight approaching her homestead. "They'll follow when they find us gone," she said, her voice tight with fear. Nakohe's face was set in grim determination as he urged the horses faster. "Yes, but we have head start. And I know ways through mountains they will not follow." As they rounded a bend in the trail, Sarah looked back one last time at the homestead that had been her home for over a decade. In the distance, she could see men dismounting in her yard, torches illuminating their angry faces. "I'm sorry about your home," Nakohe said quietly. Sarah gripped the rifle tighter. "A home is the people in it, not the walls around them. My father taught me that." She turned to check on Thomas and the twins in the back. "We'll make a new home, somewhere safe for all of us." As the wagon rumbled into the darkness, leaving behind everything familiar, Sarah felt a strange mixture of fear and hope. Whatever lay ahead, they would face it together. The journey through the mountains was grueling. For 3 days, they followed obscure trails known only to Nakohe, stopping only when necessary to rest the horses and care for the twins. Thomas proved remarkably resilient, helping with the babies and never complaining about the rough conditions. "How much farther to Prescott?" Sarah asked as they made camp on the 3rd evening. The twins were sleeping peacefully after their feeding, and Thomas was dozing beside them. "1 more day," Nakohe replied, tending the small, smokeless fire he'd built. "We have lost any who followed." Sarah nodded, relief washing over her tired body. They had seen no sign of pursuers since the first night, when distant torches had briefly appeared on a ridge behind them. "Do you think the judge will help us?" she asked, voicing the worry that had plagued her throughout their journey. Nakohe was silent for a moment. "I do not know white man's law, but I know courage when I see it." His dark eyes met hers across the fire. "You have shown great courage for my daughters. And you've given Thomas something I couldn't, a connection to his father's ways." Sarah smiled softly. "He idolized James. Losing him was devastating for both of us." "The boy has strong spirit," Nakohe observed. "He will become a good man." They sat in comfortable silence as night deepened around them. Despite the uncertainty ahead, Sarah felt strangely at peace. Whatever happened in Prescott, they had already formed a bond that transcended conventional understanding. The following day, they reached the outskirts of Prescott by mid-afternoon. The territorial capital was larger than Sarah had expected, with substantial buildings lining the main street and a steady flow of people going about their business. "We should find lodging first," Sarah suggested, conscious of their trail-worn appearance. "Clean up before seeing the judge." Nakohe nodded, though his posture had tensed as they entered the town. Sarah understood his apprehension. An Apache man with a white woman and children would draw attention anywhere. They found a small boarding house on a side street, run by a widow named Mrs. Caldwell. The older woman raised her eyebrows at the unusual family, but asked no questions when Sarah paid for 2 adjoining rooms with gold coins. Baths at the end of the hall, she informed them. Dinners at 6 sharp. After washing away the dust of travel and changing into clean clothes, Sarah felt more prepared to face whatever challenges lay ahead. The twins, freshly bathed and fed, seemed content in their makeshift cradle. "I'll go to the courthouse," Sarah told Nakohe. "Ask about the judge's schedule. It might be better if I go alone first." Though reluctant, Nakohe agreed. "Be careful. Some towns are not kind to those who break their rules." Sarah squeezed his hand reassuringly. "Prescott is different. It's a territorial capital, more cosmopolitan than our little settlement." At the courthouse, Sarah was directed to Judge Franklin Harrison's clerk, a young man with spectacles who looked up in surprise when she stated her business. "A marriage license between yourself and an Apache?" The clerk's voice rose with each word. "Yes," Sarah replied firmly. "Is Judge Harrison available to hear our case?" The clerk seemed flustered. "The judge is in chambers now, but his docket is full for days. Perhaps you should reconsider." "Is that Mrs. Thompson?" a deep voice interrupted. A tall, gray-haired man in judicial robes stood in a doorway behind the clerk's desk. Sarah stepped forward. "Judge Harrison, you remember me?" The judge studied her face. "James Thompson's widow, yes? James served on a jury for me once. Good man." His eyes narrowed. "My clerk says you're seeking a rather unusual marriage license." "I am. May we speak privately?" Judge Harrison considered for a moment, then nodded. "Come into my chambers." For the next hour, Sarah explained their situation, Nakohe's predicament, the twins' needs, the threats from the sheriff, and their escape from the homestead. So this marriage would be one of convenience, a legal protection rather than a traditional union, the judge clarified. "Yes," Sarah acknowledged, "though we've developed a mutual respect and partnership these past weeks." Judge Harrison leaned back in his chair, steepling his fingers. "What you're proposing skirts several territorial statutes, Mrs. Thompson. Intermarriage between whites and Indians isn't explicitly forbidden here as it is in some states, but it's certainly unprecedented." Sarah's heart sank. "Then you won't help us?" "I didn't say that." The judge rose and paced to his window. "I've long believed the reservation system is flawed, forcing proud people to live as prisoners." He shook his head. "Bring your Apache friend and the children to my home this evening, 8 o'clock. My wife will want to meet them. We'll discuss options then." Hope flickered within Sarah. "Thank you, Your Honor." That evening they arrived at the judge's impressive home on the hill overlooking Prescott. Mrs. Harrison, a kind-faced woman with silver-streaked hair, welcomed them warmly, immediately taking an interest in the twins. "Beautiful little girls," she exclaimed, gently cradling Kiona. "And how old did you say they were?" "Nearly 2 months now," Sarah replied, watching as Thomas shyly accepted a cookie from the judge's wife. Judge Harrison led Nakohe into his study, while the women and children remained in the parlor. Sarah tried to focus on Mrs. Harrison's friendly conversation, but her mind was on the discussion happening behind closed doors. After what seemed like hours, the men emerged. The judge's expression was serious but not unkind. "Mrs. Thompson, I've had a frank conversation with Nakohe about your situation," he began. "I believe I can help you, but not in the way you initially proposed." Sarah's breath caught. "What do you mean?" "A marriage between you would be contested, possibly invalidated, and would bring scrutiny neither of you needs." The judge sat down across from her. "However, there is land available in the Northern Territory, near the Colorado border. Remote but fertile. The government is eager to settle it." Nakohe stepped forward. "The judge offers homestead grant, land in both our names, legal document that says we are business partners." "A partnership homestead," Judge Harrison explained. "Unusual, but not unprecedented. It gives legal protection to both of you and the children. The twins would be registered as your wards, Sarah, with Nakohe recognized as their father with full parental rights." Sarah's mind raced. "And the reservation orders?" "I'll issue a judicial exemption. As territorial judge, I have that authority, especially for Indians engaged in civilized enterprise. The government's term, not mine." The judge's expression showed his distaste for the phrase. Would we have to live separately? Sarah asked, glancing at Nakohe. The arrangement is civil, not domestic, Judge Harrison replied carefully. How you organize your household is your private affair. Mrs. Harrison squeezed Sarah's hand. What matters is that the children have stability and care. The rest is between you and God. 2 days later, they stood in Judge Harrison's chambers as he signed the final documents. The partnership homestead grant gave them rights to 320 acres near a place called Pine Valley. The judicial exemption protected Nakohe from reservation orders. Additional papers established Sarah as legal guardian to Ayanna and Kiona, with Nakohe's parental rights fully preserved. This is highly irregular, the judge admitted as he affixed his seal to the documents. But sometimes irregular times call for irregular measures. As they left the courthouse, papers secured safely in Sarah's satchel, Thomas ran ahead, excited about their new adventure. Will there be fish in Pine Valley? He asked Nakohe. Yes, and deer, rabbit, many plants to learn about. A rare smile crossed Nakohe's face as he watched the boys' enthusiasm. Sarah walked beside them, each twin bundled securely in a sling across her chest. It's a 3-week journey, she reminded them. We'll need supplies, a better wagon. I have money, Nakohe said quietly. Gold I traded for. Enough for supplies. Sarah was surprised but didn't question him. They had all kept secrets out of necessity. That evening, as they prepared for the journey ahead, Sarah found Nakohe on the boarding house porch, watching the sunset. Are you certain about this path? She asked, joining him. It won't be easy. People will still talk, still judge. My people have a saying, he replied. It is better to have less thunder in the mouth and more lightning in the hand. We have chosen to act rather than just speak of justice. Sarah smiled at the wisdom in his words. My father used to say something similar. Judge a person by their deeds, not their words. Your father was wise man, Nakohe observed. Like you are wise woman. A comfortable silence fell between them as they watched the sun slip below the horizon, painting the sky in brilliant oranges and purples. What will we tell the twins when they're older? Sarah wondered aloud. About all this? Nakohe considered for a moment. We will tell them truth, that when they needed mother, one came. When boy needed father, one came. That sometimes family is made by choice, not just by blood. Sarah felt tears prick her eyes at the simple truth of his words. And that love can take many forms. Nakohe nodded, his dark eyes reflecting the fading light. Many forms, but always same strength. As darkness settled over Prescott, Sarah thought about the journey ahead, not just the physical travel to Pine Valley, but the path they had chosen together.